Hydrocolloid Conference in San Diego. I'm here with Dennis Seisun from IMR International, the organisers of the conference. Dennis, what are your thoughts now on the hydrocolloid market, particularly when it comes to the issue around commodity prices and the surges in?
Well, one thing we talked a lot about these last few days, Robin, is the fact that raw material situation for a number of these hydrocolloids is under a great deal of stress and has seen a lot more turbulence in the last 2-3 years than we've seen in the decades past. So things like pectin, all the cellulosics, gum arabic, alginates, tremendous, even carrageenan, tremendous fluctuations. Guar gum right now is gone through the roof. So anyway, raw material side, we've got a hell of a lot going on. Not all of it very good, because it's led to a lot of disruption for hydrocolloid availability and price, of course.
What's the main cause of that?
Raw material. In the case of cellulosics, it's demand for the special grade of dissolving pulp that goes to China right now. They're taking up everything they can. In the case of guar gum, it's the oil field industry that's taking all the guar gum they can lay their hands on and paying a lot more than the food industry has ever paid. So it's all raw material related, it seems.
Okay. We just finished a 2-day conference here. What are some of the thoughts that you find from discussing with various people in the hydrocolloid industry?
Well, one thing we talked about is the fact that although this conference is held in the US and Europe, the high growth rate is actually taking place in Asia, and not just in China, which of course everyone knows is a very rapidly growing market, but all the other Asian countries. And if you combine them with China, means that that's really where it's all happening in terms of new development, growth in market. So I need to focus my own efforts in getting more information on the Asian market.
And particularly in China, is it more seen as a commodity over there, or do you see also development in specialties?
No, I think the specialty aspect is definitely growing over there, simply because with the economy growing, with the average income growing, the processed food industry is growing in relation to that, and the use of the hydrocolloids is related to that. So no, definitely the specialty aspect is growing over there.
Okay. And one of the main discussion points here is that still, after all these years, there's no real clear clarification on what defines natural within the hydrocolloid space. And
yes, we can all smile about that, because that's one of the most commonly used terms, and yet one of the most ill-defined terms in the food industry. Natural, as you heard in many presentations, really doesn't mean anything, and yet it's the most valued term on a label and the one most commonly used by anybody trying to get a consumer to build a more positive image about products. So we talked about genetically GMO, GM-free foods. We talked about organic, fair trade, but the term natural, even though that's the one that's the least defined, is most widely used.
But this is an area where hydrocolloids can succeed, even though in Europe in particular it's difficult with the E-number legislation.
Yeah, and really in the case of natural, it's a gray area, because, as I said, there's no definition, so you can have E-numbers added and still call it natural. And in any case, in many of these products, you've got a certain threshold beyond which or below which you're allowed to have certain additives and still qualify for certain designations. And all these things are used at less than 0.5%, 0.1%, 0.05% in some cases. So definitely they have a place in these growing markets.
Okay. And any thoughts on really what's to come in the market?
Well, we talked about nutrigenomics, which seems a little bit like science fiction now, but I'm convinced, and even the speaker from Nestle addressed the fact that studying the individual's DNA and then matching the food to go with that is going to be something in the future. And then the aspect of these things acting as sources of dietary fiber and a better understanding between soluble and insoluble dietary fiber. So we're going beyond just thickening and viscosifying and gelling. These hydrocolloids are now good for a lot more than we ever thought they would be.
Dennis, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Rob.